Hi guys, welcome back to the channel and to this video. Today we're going to talk about what's been going on in the motor trade in October. It has been a very strange month. Now, as the title of this video suggests, car sales collapsed in October. Look, the things are not great, I'll be honest with you. Now, I'm involved in a couple of groups online, in forums and stuff like that. Obviously, I speak to people at the auctions. I've got friends of mine who are traders, and they're all saying exactly the same thing. But October has been one of the worst months on record for the general car sales, used car sales in particular. Now, what do I mean by general car sales? Well, general car sales, I call it, this is my opinion, the stuff really from sort of your £5 grand, that's sort of the bottom if you like, all the way up to sort of 20-30 grand upwards. And these can be guys basically who make up most of the motor trade, from the sort of one-man band outfit you see locally up into your car supermarkets. They're usually selling cars sort of less than 10 years old and stuff that's predominantly on finance, whether that's hire purchase or PCP, etc. I've been speaking to guys who literally have saying it's the worst October they've ever seen. They are comparing it to December. Now, December is a terrible month in the trade, always has been. December's usually one of those months where if you can just break even, you've done well. Most day traders sort of write off December. It's just one of those months you have to get through in order to get through to January, when things do pick up usually quite well. But when you're comparing your sales from October to the likes of December, you've got a problem, because all of a sudden things have just rapidly changed, and it sort of changed around the sort of end of the first week of October. September was okay. Obviously new registrations came out, there was a lot of activity going on in the trade. Most people's sales were generally okay. I don't think anyone was breaking any records, but it was okay. And it sort of spilled off into October. We noticed the same thing as well. We had a lot of sales around that first week of October, late September. But in the second week, even we noticed the footfall dropped a little bit, and we started to become a little bit quiet. Now, for us, it picked up, and we actually had a decent October in the end. But that's because the stuff we're dealing in is completely different to what the most general traders out there deal in. Like I said, we're dealing in stuff £3.5 grand below the real budget end of the market, and that doesn't seem to have been affected by this, which I'll explain more in a bit. But for other dealers in October, like I said, that first week dried up and it's been really dire. I know some traders who've literally sold nothing in October. I know a couple of traders as well who have been speaking on the groups who've actually decided to pack up completely, actually stop trading. They've had enough, and they've now decided that October was the straw that broke the camel's back, if you like, which is a real shame, because although there'll be some people who'll probably say that most dealers are grabbing or whatever like that and might have their opinion, who might put car dealers in the same sort of group as estate agents. At the end of the day, these are people's livelihoods and businesses, so no one wants to see someone go out of business or have to pack up trading. But what is the reasons? Why is all of a sudden it all dried up in October? Why are the customers sort of standing on the fence, sitting on the fence, should we say, and not committing to buying cars? Well, there's a number of reasons. The main one really why this is all sort of happening is there seems to be a massive re-rate in the pricing of cars here in the UK. Since COVID, obviously prices of cars have gone through the roof, and they sort of peaked, in my opinion, they peaked around January of this year. That's when we sort of peaked at the top prices, and then since then they've come down quite a bit. And then sort of leveled off a bit and plateaued, if you like, ever since then. Particularly in the stuff from a few grand up till sort of 10 grand. That stuff seems to have sort of leveled off. However, the stuff around the edges seems to have been dropping quite significantly. It started really with electric vehicles. They were the first thing we sort of noticed in the trade that started to decline very quickly. Beginning of the year, Tesla actually dropped their prices on cars. That was a sort of first shot across the bow, if you like, that something wasn't quite right. When those prices got dropped, obviously then everything around that sort of price level, the EVs, etc., all the other Teslas had to come down, because obviously no one's going to pay top money for a used EV when you can buy a brand new one that's been price reduced. So obviously those prices had to come down. That had a massive impact on the trade. A lot of traders got burnt having stock on of EVs, which they couldn't then get rid of, or they had to sort of drop their prices down and lose money on them. It was not a great time in the trade if you were dealing with EVs at the beginning of this year. But then it started to spill off into other sectors. We started to see issues with the prestige vehicles, the big old units we call them, so like your big old Land Rovers, your big Jags, big saloons, stuff like that, your BMX5s, Q7s, all these big cars particularly diesels, started to have a massive drop in price. And there's lots of reasons for that. ULEZ has had a massive impact on that. Obviously, those cars are being redistributed across the UK. The cost of these cars are having an impact. Obviously, there's a cost of living crisis going on. People obviously got less money in their pockets because of inflation that seems to have hit home now. Less time last year. Other really than your gas and electric going up, which meant up immediately. No one really noticed anything in the shops going up too much, but now as inflation's caught up, we're all starting to realise that things in the shops and our pockets, and a pound in the pocket is not going anywhere near what it used to. So people are naturally just being a bit cautious. They're downsizing. Like I said, you can't get insurance on some of these cars in London. You can't really drive them in London without costing the earth. They're just not very practical, and that is a massive market of cars around London and Greater London, the outer London or boroughs, which now needs to be sort of redistributed, if you like, around the rest of the UK. Now it has an effect on prices because the demand's not there, and obviously that then causes those prices to come down. I saw this and we witnessed it a few times recently in a couple of our auction videos. We're talking sort of older stuff we're comparing this to, but it's even some newer stuff as well that's dropping quite heavily. I watched a 12-plate Range Rover Sport about 2 months ago, and that did about 3.5 grand. That did a 12-plate Range Rover Sport with about 110,000 miles or something like that it had on it. That was unbelievably cheap. Now, I'll just give you some comparison on that because I can actually compare that to a car that I bought. So I bought the wife, her Range Rover Sport, a 60-plate one. Nothing too fancy, just a bog standard HSE basic thing, the older shaped one on a 60 plate, done 104,000 miles. I bought it in the trade at £7,000 18 months ago. Now at that sort of money, that was actually spot on. It was actually spang on its price. It was worth about 7.4 trade. I got it at 7 grand, so I was quite pleased with that. Now if you look at that car today, I've actually valued it this morning. That car is actually booking, although it's got a bit more miles on it, it's actually booking at less than 3 grand trade. 28.50 trade cap on that car. So that car, its trade price, by the way guys, I'm not talking retail, its trade price is more than halved in 18 months. That is not great. In fact, that's really concerning. It just shows how much the prices of these big tubs has come down. I'd be lucky today if I got probably 4.5 grand, maybe 4.2 for that Range Rover if I wanted to sell it tomorrow privately. That car would have been about £10,000 18 months ago. That just shows you how much of a big change we've had. Now, with all this going on with the drops in price in EVs, drops in prices of all your big prestige stuff, people are naturally going to be a bit cautious. Christmas is round the corner as well. People don't really want to be buying cars in December, late November. It sort of goes quiet naturally anyway. And if you think for a moment that prices are going to keep dropping, why would you necessarily want to buy a car now when you could probably wait until the new year and things might be a bit cheaper? So that's why we're seeing a lot of people sitting on the fence. Speaking to dealers, they were talking about how they've gone in their sort of data analytics on Auto Trader, and they're actually seeing people are viewing their adverts. People are going online and looking at cars. They're just not following up with leads. They're just not committing or ringing up in the numbers what they were. That to me shows clearly that there's people are being really cautious about their next purchase, and they don't want to get caught out in a price drop. So things have been pretty grim for some dealers out there, and unfortunately it doesn't appear to be looking to get any better. In fact, one of the car journalist sites put out there that in October there was a massive reduction in car prices, cap prices, over 4% in the month of October alone. There has not been a drop like that in over 12 years. So that's not good, and it's not looking positive at all for the rest of the year. Now, there is one sector that is not affected by this, and that is the budget cars. Your cheapy stuff from literally a couple of grand cars up to sort of 3-4 grand stuff. Those type of vehicles have not gone down at all. I've not seen any reduction in the prices of these cars at auctions. There doesn't seem to be any issue with selling this type of stuff. Those cheapy budget vehicles are still flying out the door if you can get them at the right money and obviously get them prepped to a great standard to get them out. And what I've started to notice now as well, some are more savvy dealers, maybe more smaller independent ones, one-man band outfits, who deal in sort of the dearer stuff. I've noticed over the last couple of sales at the auctions, they've started dabbling in these cheapy cars again. So the stuff that might be around the 3 or 4 grand mark, because they know at the moment that's the stuff that's selling. So they'll sort of dip the toe in there, albeit temporarily, until things sort of re-rate themselves, the market picks back up, and then they'll usually then come back out of it again and start dealing with what they usually deal with. So for instance, the other day I was at an auction and I saw guys bidding on cars that they usually wouldn't even go anywhere near, which means I had to pay slightly more as well for the stuff that I was buying because I had more competition. So it'll be interesting to see what happens over the next few months. Will November just be as poor as October? Hopefully for some guys out there we do see a bit of an improvement, but I do suspect that unfortunately November and December are going to be pretty bad for the trade. I don't think we're going to see really any sort of uplift now until probably into the new year, and then by that point I think the prices would have sort of stabilized a bit, and then people naturally will go out as the new year and obviously start changing the cars again, and we should start to see a bit of an uplift in the trade. Now, I am not too worried about the sector that I'm in, because the stuff we're dealing in is completely different. These budget cars, these are probably one of the last sectors to be affected. If people can't afford the cheap budget cars that we're dealing in, then the economy really is in trouble. But obviously I'll keep an eye on the situation, and if obviously things start to drop off, I'll update you guys in my videos as I do anyway. So anyway guys, I better get back to work. So thank you for watching this video. Please check out my channel Car UK if you are new to this video. Please click like and subscribe to get my latest content as it lands. We've got an auction video coming out imminently, hopefully in the next day or so, so make sure you please check that out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video.